Hello everyone, I hope you are well and welcome back to another 4D Systems project video. This week, I'll be taking you through the process of designing and programming this treadmill interface using 4D Systems pixxiLCD 39P4 capacitive touch display and programming in the Workshop4 IDE. Let's get started. Starting off as usual in Photoshop, I'll quickly show you how this project is structured and all the different graphics it requires. This one is relatively simple, so I should be able to go through this quickly. Today we are using a pixxiLCD 39P4 CT display. You can find all the information relating to your display, such as the datasheet and step files, on the 4D Systems website. So this is what the design in the Photoshop file looks like. To make things easy, I have set the resolution of the artboard to match the display I am using. So when I import these graphics, there is no need to resize or scale anything. I just need to match the placement of where the graphics go. Starting with what will be the background layer of the program, this is basically an image with a gradient layer over it and the opacity turned down. I also have some text elements that will remain in the background as well. When exporting these graphics, I'll just make sure that all of them are together as a single image, as I don't need to control or move any of them once they are in the program. It will stay like this the entire time. All the animation, movement, and data display that will be going on will be done through things such as the gauges and the digits that I have on the screen. As for these labels, I've put them here as placeholders for reference, but these are really easy to rebuild and animate directly in Workshop 4 using widgets, so I won't need to export all of the text individually. However, it's always good to complete the design on Photoshop to make sure you're happy with it and use it as a reference later when you are programming. I personally usually have this file open somewhere so I can take a quick look back at the layout as well as all of my layers. That is the background done. Next up are these two gauges on the left and right side of the screen. If you've checked out some of the other similar project videos that also use gauges, you'll know that I'm going to have to export the separate layers of this graphic in order to create my own custom smart widget. So I have this base color, which represents the off state or unfilled part of the gauge. And then as the gauge gets filled, this little indicator will rotate around the circle, and the color, which in this case is blue, will fill the gauge as the value increases. I also have a number in the middle here, which will be a numeric part linked to the gauge. And it will also change to display the value of the gauge as well. It'll be the same for the one on the right, except the fill color is purple, and instead of showing the steps, it is showing the kilometers per hour. So there will be some slightly varying settings to account for that as well. The last two parts of this design are just these animation graphics here in the middle and to the right side of the display. If I open the folder that these are in, you can see that these graphics have different states which will all be exported and then looped between in order to make them animated. So I'll basically be treating these like frames, and while the display is in its on state, it'll be playing or flicking through these images. I'm going to set that up in the code later when we get to it. It is a simple setup. That's all for the UI design of this program. There aren't too many elements, and even though this is a completely different application and design of these assets, the workflow and structure for this program quite closely follows some of the other projects that I've already done. So now I've exported all of the necessary graphics and organized them into a folder. So I can go ahead and start programming the display in Workshop 4. Here's a quick preview of what all the graphics look like once they are exported. They are grouped and numbered depending on where they are going to be used. Over in Workshop 4, as usual, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to find my display using the drop-down menu and I'm going to keep the orientation landscape for this one. And today I'll be working in the ViSi environment. The first thing I'm going to do is import the background graphic. To do this, I'm going to make sure Form 1 is selected as the object here in the Object Inspector. Then I'm going to go down to Background Type and change it from Color to Image. Now I can go down to the option where it says Image, and if I click it, the Image and Video Converter window will pop up, which will allow me to import my own background image. Again, keep in mind that whatever you import as your background will be locked to the form and you will not be able to move it around. So make sure the elements that are imported here are purely to be used as a base for your program. Also, if you need to use multiple forms, so if I go over to the Systems Media tab and create a new form, it will default to being blank, meaning you can either use a different background image, or if you want it to remain the same, you just have to import it again. For this project, we just need one form though, so I'll delete this new one that I just made. Next up is this text that goes on the left side. These are just static text labels. So I'll go to the widgets menu, go over to labels, and drag in a static text widget. From here, I can go down to the caption option and type in what I want the text to say. Finally, I can change the font, text style, size, and color by expanding the font menu on the right side here. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I'll place it on the display, making sure to use the Photoshop file as reference. And I can just copy and paste it over to be used next to the other labels as well. I'll just need to change their captions. That's it for those, super simple. Moving on to the two gauges showing steps and kilometers. I'll show you how to do one, and then the steps to create the other are pretty much identical. I'm going to go to the widgets menu, I'll go to gauges, and then I'm going to drag in a smart gauge widget onto the screen. It is currently empty, so I'll be importing my own graphics to configure it. If I press the configure option in the Object Inspector, the Smart Widgets editor window will pop up. And from here, I can start building my custom gauge. To build this gauge, I'm going to first import my base image, which I have labeled as steps base image. This will act in a similar way to our background layer for the form, but obviously it is being applied to this gauge only. I'll just go ahead and scale the gauge to a size I'm happy with as well, which will make it easier to work with. Now we can start adding our layers over here on the right side. On layer 1, I'm going to add the indicator that's at the end of wherever the color fill is. So I'll enable the layer, and I want this to be above the base image. I'll set its reference point and its min and max X and Y positions, and then so it can rotate, I'll set its minimum and maximum degrees as well. I'm also going to give this a max value of 1000, which means the gauge will have 1000 frames. Now, as I scroll through the frames, you can see that this graphic is moving as I planned. The last step for this layer is to turn on the numeric part option. This will show a numeric value, allowing the exact value of the gauge to be shown to the user. This numeric part indicates the number in relation to the layer it's on, so make sure you are using the correct layer for this. On layer 2, I'm just going to add the color layers. This one I just need to set its reference point and X and Y position, and it only needs one frame. I also want this to be sitting below the base image, so I'm going to go to this option here where it says location relative to face, and I'll select below. Layer 3 is almost identical to layer 1. I'll enable it, 1000 frames, and set its degrees so it can rotate. I also want to place this layer below the face image as well. Finally, on layer 4, I just have a color fill. This is static, so no need to change any settings or give it frames. I just import the image and then enable it and place it below the base image as well. The last step is to link our layers. So I'll go over here on the left side and tick the linked group options for layers 1 to 4. And that's it. Now when I scroll through the frames of this gauge, you can see that it is functioning as intended. I have the dark purple for the off state, the blue color is filling the gauge as the value increases, and the numeric part is displaying properly as well. I'll just make some minor tweaks to the font and sizing of the numeric part, and from here I can place it wherever I like on the screen. That is the first gauge done, super easy to put together. For the second one on the right side, which shows kilometers, the steps are pretty much the same. So I'm not going to go through all of them again. However, a quick shortcut is that for an alternative color like this one, you can simply copy and paste the widget and then change the image layers. So you don't have to redo all the values and settings, but it will still behave in the same way. I'm just going to change the frames, so instead of 1000, I only want this one to have 100. And I am also going to change the format of the numeric part to display a value with a decimal place as well. Next up is the digits. This one is really simple. I just need to drag in a LED digit widget onto the screen and customize its color to my liking. I want the decimal place option to be 3 and the digits option to be 4. This is static for now, but I'll be controlling the digits with code. I'll just copy and paste it like I did for the gauges and change the decimal place for this one to 2. The very last part of this program are the little animations that are happening while the screen is turned on. For these, I'm going to import the image frames that I showed in Photoshop using user images. All I have to do is choose the images option and select all of the frames in the File Explorer. This too will be controlled with code. I'll do the same for the other user image animation as well. That is all for the layout and setup of this program. Now we can finally move on to the last step, which is the code. I'll give you a quick rundown. So the program goes through the normal setup, displays form 1, and then it enters an infinite loop. In the main loop, the smart gauges are updating in relation to their frames. So for smart gauge 1, the animation is cycling between 0 and 71, and for smart gauge 2, it is 0 and 1000. We are also updating the user images 1 and 2 to cycle through their small image sequences to make them animated. Finally, the LED digit widgets are also being controlled, so their values are constantly changing as well. After the animation hits the final frame, it loops back and repeats forever. This is some very basic code, but essential for making the screen feel functioning and alive. From here, I can go ahead and compile and load the program onto the display. And that's it for this project. We can now see that everything is functioning as intended and that the code is working properly, looping the frames once it has reached the end. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you would like to take a look at the Pixi product series used in this video, please visit our website 4dsystems.com.au or follow the link in the description. If you have any questions or need help with anything 4D related, please refer to the 4D Systems Resource Center. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more project videos. See you next time.